All right, we are live, I think to everywhere. I don't know. I forgot to actually schedule this yesterday. Sorry about that. So hopefully we're streaming to places. And I also, like I said, was running about 15 minutes late. In classic developer style, I thought I could finish something before 10:30, and of course it took way longer than I thought. So anyway, let me know in the comments that you're seeing and hearing me okay on both Twitter and YouTube, or X, or whatever it's called these days. Okay, so yesterday, I haven't done anything since yesterday. We're picking up right where we ended with part one. Yesterday we built out the parsing and the lexer of this Livewire, this new Livewire code generation that we're adding to Blueprint. So again, the parser kind of just reads through the YAML, puts it into an array, and then sends it in to the lexer. The lexer then turns that into data objects that we can actually use in code for what we're going to do today, which is actually start to generate the stuff based on what you said. So now that everything's parsed, it's in an array, but it's not just tokens, it's actually saying, okay, that was a validate statement. Okay, this was a component with these properties and these methods. So we get a little bit more structure to the code. So that's kind of the subtle difference I talked about yesterday between the parser and the lexer. And now we're going to actually get into what Blueprint calls the generators. The generators are the things, of course, that generate code. So, all right, let me check my levels here. Yeah, seems good, and I can hear things in my AirPods, so I think we're good. Again, let me know in the chat. Like I said, I'm running late, so there's not that many live. Always hard for me to tell. Always hard for me to tell that everything's going well out there. Anyway, am I feeling in a TDD mood or not? We probably need to be in a bit of a TDD mood. It's hard to see this stuff without the tests, in fairness. This is one of those things that you really need strong integration tests for because of just all the various things that can be generated. So, as we've been doing before, this is much like a controller. Generating a Livewire component is effectively the same as generating a controller because it's just Livewire handling the request lifecycle. It generates a view, these types of things. So I think let's just continue our pattern of copying controller stuff and making one for component. And then let's rename everywhere in here that we use controller generator and call it component generator. All right, and then of course we're going to need to make that. So let's create that. And for now, we'll just leave this empty. We'll start driving this out. So let's kind of see what kind of tests we have in here. We pass in the file system. Of course, that's not necessarily used just yet. So let's actually get this a little more, just a little farther down the road. A generator, no, not generator test, sorry. Let's get the actual generator. Extends abstract class generator, implements generator, okay. Where's our constructor? Oh, the constructor I think is inherited. Okay, I hate that abs like. Did I do that? Ugh, that's gross. I haven't written, like I said yesterday. I started Blueprint 5 years ago. I considered it somewhat feature complete. Probably honestly like 2 or 3 years ago. So in the last 2 years, I've just been accepting PRs that felt good based on the isolation of the PR. This is kind of one of those things about open source, though, and you start to tell why, Taylor, especially with something super massively large like the Laravel framework, is a little bit protective of it because you can do this. You can be in here going to add some features someday, and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't look like something I would do, right? It's all about that feel. Like this doesn't feel like my code anymore. Anyway, okay, For now, we'll just implement this with the most naive solution, which is return an empty array. Okay, and then the array types, I'm not sure what that is. I'll just call it components because the other one was called controllers. I don't know if we're going to need traits, but we're definitely going to do imports. So I think this will get us a little farther down the rabbit hole. Okay, cool. All right, we are going to do a new component generator, new blueprint. Blueprint, add the lexer for models, because again, our things might reference models in our complex tests, so that's why it's doing that. This controller lexer we don't need anymore. This will actually be our component lexer, and that's good. And then we're going to register this generator, our Livewire generator. Okay. Whoa. Let's go focus mode here. I always forget to focus. Why isn't that clicking? For 1 hour. All right, cool. Let's get back over here. All right, cool. Okay, so output writes nothing for an empty tree. Okay, so file system, we're mocking the file system. We call these stubs. So let's take this controller class stub everywhere, and let's call it component class stubg. All right. So let's just get some real quick ones running here. We can always add the more advanced ones for the namespaces and all that stuff as we develop more and more features into Livewire. Okay, so it expects the component stub to return the actual component stub. It should not have received put. And then when we call, that's kind of weird. It's interesting that should not. I normally expect these kind of things to be underneath. That's where I would have put in that. So I'm curious why it did the other thing. Anyway, let's do components. Okay, so when we pass this components empty tree in, again, no syntax there, then we would expect that it should not have received put. It didn't write anything to the file system, right? And the output, the files that were generated is empty. Effectively, output returns an array of the file paths generated, much like when you do artisan make and it says generated this. Same thing with Blueprint. So a couple things here. For this to run, we're going to need to create this stub. So let's go into our stubs. And actually what we really need is Livewire. Let's get on GitHub. I want to take their stubs. There they are. Let's borrow their stubs. Dusk component. What? Wait a second. Dusk component. What is this? Dusk view. Why is this called Dusk view? Am I in the right place? What's going on here? This is a component. Why the hell is this called Dusk? That's hilarious. Wait a second. Dusk browser name, Livewire component base. Am I crazy? What's going on here? Am I crazy? Why is this called Dusk component? This is blowing my mind right now. Hold on a second. We gotta go back to project pair. I'm using Livewire here. PHP. Let's cat. Vendor, Livewire, stubs. Is there stubs here? What's in here? Source, stubs. Where's the stubs? Oh, does it use Laravel? Does it use Laravel's stubs? Does it wrap that up in there? Is that what's going on? Are these just old and not used anymore? That's crazy. Dist? What's in dist? Not stubs. What does it use? Components drawer. Yeah, when you do PHP artisan make, or is it Livewire make or make Livewire? It's just make Livewire, right? Example component. Yeah. So when you look at this, what do you get? Cat that. Yeah, you get this. You get what they have. It's streamlined though, so that's not the right stub. That's very confusing. What is this Dusk component? Everything else is right. That must just be a really, really old stub. Yeah, 4 years ago. Clean up the repo, Caleb. Come on. All right. Anyway, let's just take this. I don't know what the heck they're doing. Let's take this. I don't know where that stub is. We're going down the wrong rabbit hole here. Okay, so let's do a component class stub. Let's paste this in there and let's kind of borrow our placeholders here. Let's backfill these placeholders. So we have namespace, we have the imports, That'll be here. We have the class. That'll be here. And then we have all the methods. We have all the methods. We're always going to render. We're always going to render something. Okay, so the question here is, do I leave render alone and do something? Do I leave render alone and do something like methods? And I wish Copilot would quit. Okay, properties and methods. Do I just automatically build a render method? I'm feeling like yes. I feel like that way I can sort them and you know, alphabetize them and you know, pretty output them effectively. So yeah, I think what we'll do is when we're generating the Livewire component, we're automatically going to add a render method, much like we automatically add the mount method if you have properties. So let's leave that alone for now. And then I don't know what's going on with those, so we're going to ignore that. And then we also are going to need, what do we call these? Like blade? Do we call them a view? What does Livewire call that? Did it say anything? View. I call it class and view. Okay, so let's say, should I call this livewire.class and then livewire.view maybe? What did I call the other stuff? I just call it view stub. Policy method view. Okay, yeah. Let's change the naming here just a little bit. Component could be anything. Let's rename this to Livewire class. All right, cool. I'm cool with that. And then let's plop in Livewire view stub. All right, and that's gonna look like this. So let's just PB copy that. Paste it in there. All right, and work, do what you enjoy. Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, I mean, that's what they give you, so let's just keep it, right? That's fine. We could make it more instructive eventually, but I think for now, that's fine. Let's keep going. Stub files here, Livewire source features, support command. Wow, okay. What the hell are the other stubs then? I don't know. Clean that up. That's where I would have looked as stubs. Anyway, I have no idea what these are. I'll have to go see what they are and then make a PR to get rid of them if they're truly not referenced anywhere. I'm assuming because of Dusk, maybe there's a -- test you can do and it generates a Dust test. I don't know. You don't use Dust to test Livewire anymore, so I don't know what you're doing there. Anyway, let's make this Livewire class stub. All right, cool. And then effectively, we should be able to run this now. Let's go see. We should be able to run this, and it theoretically, whoops, we got to go back to our project. All right, vendor bin PHP unit, that filter, stuff's in my way. Filter that, because everything else is going to fail. Okay, method stub Livewire class it didn't actually pull in the stub. That's totally fine. That's a good failure. Let's go over to our controller generator. We see here that we bring in the tree and we immediately pull in the stub because it's going to get used theoretically multiple times. So it's a bit of like internal caching, if you will. So we know that we're kind of doing that in our component generator, so we can go ahead and kind of do the same thing. And instead we'll call this Livewire class stub. There's our stub. We don't use it, but this should get this passing. Great. Okay, awesome. Let's go on to a more advanced example. And yeah, let's just play with that for just a second. I don't know, again, I don't know why that would have been there, so let's just say something like this file system put in whatever path we're in here, so it doesn't really matter. Example dot PHP stub. All right. Yeah, okay. Method put should be called exactly 0 times, but called 1 time. Okay, cool. So that is being tested. I don't know why that was above where it was, but it's okay. I think either way, it both works. Okay, I think this is really all we need here is just this data provider that like shoots through all these different things. So I'm gonna change the name of this real quick. Let's call this component tree data provider. All right, let's go back to the top. Let me just get a feel. Let me just get a feel for how many of these I'm going to want to keep. Output generates controllers with models using custom namespace. Output works for Pascal case definition. Output respects configuration. Generates controller with policies. Okay, we definitely don't need the policies stuff. So let's get rid of that. I think output respects configuration is fine. Output works for Pascal case definition. Strange. I don't care about that one. I think the rest of these are probably something I would want to keep. I think I would want to handle custom namespaces. I think I would want to handle custom configuration. And then that's just our hardcore provider. So I think this feels pretty good, except for this part. So let's now go through anywhere where we find the word controllers, and let's just change this to component. All right, and let's go back up top, and let's finish changing anywhere we said component class to livewire.class. And do we have any views? Where's the view? Do we have a view in here? No, we don't actually generate. I think the view generator is handled separately. I don't know if I want that to be the case for Livewire. We'll change that. I think Livewire should just make the view because we're not actually putting anything in the view. I can see why the other view generators do stuff is because they potentially generate views based on your controller actions, CRUD, or if you said view or anything like that. So I could see why those do that. I think for Livewire, at least for kind of this out of the box initial version, I don't think I want to separate that right now. There's no information to know what you're doing in your view, what's being wired up really yet. Maybe there will be someday, but I don't think there is now. So let's change this Livewire class. Do we need method? What's a method stub look like? Method.stub. What do you look like? Public function method request response. Okay, so we probably need a Livewire method stub, I guess. I don't feel like we really need it, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because that's the way we're doing the other stuff. So let's just do it. So we'll change this to Livewire method stub. Let's go make that Livewire method stub, and it's gonna be pretty darn simple. Same as what we saw here, just indented stuff, public function method. It's not going to receive anything. It's not going to assume to return anything, and it just has a body. So it's just a total straightforward PHP methods, class method stub. So nothing fancy there. Okay, let's go back to our very first one and kind of get a feel for seeing if we could drive this. If we could drive this out, then I think that's where we want to end the stream today. So we set up these class stubs. We set up the stub for the method. We know we're going to actually generate one. We set up exists put, so it's just making sure that the directory exists. It's going to parse our actual fixture, so we need to make some definitions. We need to make some YAML draft files for these things. It's going to analyze those tokens to get a tree, and it's going to pass that tree into this, and theoretically it's going to tell us it's created a bunch of different paths, right? So the path is what it created. So let's go look at this component data tree, because we're not going to have this many crazy examples. We definitely don't need invocable or any of this resource stuff. Crazy eloquent. Yeah, I think for now, for today, let's just do two. Let's just do a component. We'll just do like, we'll just do a simple one here. We'll call it drafts Livewire simple. It's just kind of your most basic out of the box, the make one that we saw when we generated one in the other project. So that's the most simple version. I think we'll do Livewire with properties. Let's do a Livewire with properties. I like that. And we'll do a Livewire components with properties. I'm tempted to start changing components to say Livewire. I mean, that's what it is. With properties. And then we probably want one with like a model reference. But again, we could do that. We could do that separately. I could do that later. I'm not trying to do too much today. This is going to be enough to generate. We're gonna output a lot of code doing this. Okay, so here's the thing. We're going to now generate app Livewire, and then this will just be like simple component or something like that. Okay, and then this one will be app Livewire property component. All right, and technically we're going to generate, we said we're going to go ahead and generate the view. So we actually need to output multiple paths. We actually need to output multiple paths here. What do they do when they generate one? Did they just say like example? Okay, so they just slugify effectively your component name. All right, that's fine. So here we'll say that you make resources, views, Livewire, simple component. All right, and then this one, simple component dot blade dot php. All right, and then next will be that. Whoops, copied the comma. This will be with properties component, or no, sorry, property component. Property component dot blade dot php. And then I messed that up already. I thought I was writing something strange there. Let's borrow this, or did it just line break? No, that's a long line. We'll come back to that. All right, close that up, comma. What did I break? I broke something here. How did we break this? That should have one, that should have one, that should have one. This is with properties. What did I break here? Oh, it's here. That's what you get for a long line. Okay, there we go. Back to good. Okay, we need to make these two things. So first of all, let's just start with this. We'll focus on that one in a second. Let's start with this. This is the most basic, exactly what we did with the artisan make command. So let's touch that file underneath fixtures. Nope. Oh, sorry, test fixtures. Tests fixtures. All right, cool. And then just to save me a minute, let's go ahead and do the same thing here. So we need to touch test fixtures components simple. Oh, is that not what I called it either? Do I not have components? I don't think I have components. Oh yeah, I haven't made this yet. Okay, so components, let's make dir. All right, and then let's go back up and do that. All right. All right. Oh, I'm here in the chat, so I must be breaking something. All right, let's go in here. What's going on in the chat? Oh, hey, hi, how's it going, everybody? All right, cool. Thanks for joining. Okay, so what we have here is components, and the most basic example that we had was basically this simple component. And what is the most basic? Is that it? Do we do anything? If you want exactly what Artisan generates, that's kind of like, that's a little bit unnecessary, right? Like, you would just use make Livewire if you truly just wanted these files. So I don't think you're ever going to use Blueprint in the capacity. I'm just thinking, like, can you just pass this in and it somehow works? I mean, you just say true here and then you move on to your, complex component. I don't think so. That feels weird. I think the simple component, the idea here is that you effectively at least have some kind of primary action, right? So we could just say something like, action, and here we could just say something very, very straightforward, that you're gonna do inside of here. So we could just say something like, redirect to some other place, right? So we could redirect to, simple, right? Simple page, simple dot page. What is the redirect? I think redirect assumes that you're doing a route name. We'll find out. Okay, so what this should do is generate a simple component with at least a simple method, in this case action, that just redirects or something. And so we could theoretically call this like redirect or something, but we'll just leave action the way it is. It's the primary action of this. So if we go back to our controller test, this of course should explode, but let's see if we can make this work, and I'll work on the other ones hopefully off stream before tomorrow. Okay, so let's do vendor bin PHP unit, or well, we already have this. Let's go way back up here. We'll take off that filter. We'll put that in. I expect this to explode because argument path must be of type string array given. Okay, so first of all, we're generating two things now, not just one. So our test setup is a little bit messed up. Path, dir name path. Okay. How complex? Sorry, I'm thinking quietly. Let me think out loud. I'm just wondering, does it even matter? Does it even matter if we're always generating the view, no matter what, just a basic view as Artisan does? I just feel like this other part is kind of worthless. It could be assumed. It could be assumed in the test. However, you really want your test to be dumb. I don't want the test to be performing a lot of logic of like, oh, it's this thing's base name and then it's slugified and then it's... So yeah, I think we're gonna leave this in the test, and the assumption is in the data fixtures that the first path has to be the path to the component. I'm actually comfortable assuming the path up here. I don't think we need to do this to the point of what I just said. I don't think we need to do this here. I think we effectively say app livewire. Like that directory has to exist, right? Oh, I see why I was doing dir name. It could be namespaced. It could be a namespaced component, which we'll test lower down. So yeah, I see what they're doing here. So this is paths. This is paths. And we need to say paths 0 effectively. All right. And you technically you could rename your resources to your views. So let's say paths 0 here. This fixture component. What is component? So expects. What does this expect? Oh, I see what's going on here. I see what's going on here. The view is always gonna be the stub. So that's kind of irrelevant. The view is always going to be the stub. So we don't need a fixture for that. It's just, for now, it's always going to be that. Someday it might be something else, but for now, that's what it is. However, we do need to respect the fact that the view could be in a namespaced path. So what I'm going to do is call this paths 1. It's a little, this code doesn't speak that well, but again, we can refactor later. Let's change this to this. And what I would expect is that this equals the view stub, right? And we can just var that off up here where we're doing everything else, right? So we could just say Livewire view stub. You may actually change it, so that's fine. Let's fire this off into view, and that should take care of that. Okay, so the first path is going to be the component, the class itself. The second path is going to be the view. That's just how the data fixtures are now. Again, I could clean this up with some named, named arrays or a keyed array with class and view. But I think for now that's fine. And then we don't need to say created and wrap it in an array. We would say created paths here. And I think this should get us back to a failure. There we go. Okay, so expected created but got an empty array. That's not the best comparison there, but that's what that's saying. So this is good. It's not failing because of our fixture, our setup. The test is actually running. It's getting down to line 76 here, and it's failing because those two arrays are not equal. Okay, that's good enough for me to crank out some stuff here. Okay, so let's go back to let's close all this other crap. Let's go back to our controller generator and get a feel for like what's going on here. All right, so we have tree controllers. That's interesting. Do we actually set that up? See, I don't think we have tree components, so that's gonna be good. And then let's go ahead and change all these other names where I say controller, component. I could probably add a nice return type to that actually, so I hopefully don't need that. Let's fix that up. Let's add this method. Is this actually on here? Controllers is on here. Awesome. Okay, so this theoretically returns an array, but we could give that array some shape. So we could say an array, and then up here we would say return component models. There we go. That should help a little bit. And then here we'll return what it says. There's no other reason to do anything else. So we'll say components, and if we're lucky, component should now go to where we need it to go. There we go, component. Okay, cool. So we don't need that comment if we do our base class stuff. Give it a little bit more information there. I hate the @vars. Like the whole point of new modern PHP is to have typing, and we could leverage typing to get us there. It'd be cool if we could say the type in the colon, but I'm sure PHP will get there. Anyway, the point is we got a component, we got an import. We're automatically going to add an import, I think, for whatever Livewire thing we're extending. So we want to make sure to do that. That was way up here, app Livewire, Livewire component. So we need to bring that in. All right, so we're always going to add that no matter what. If the fully qualified namespace is not equal to controllers. Okay. Oh, I see. We're adding the. Okay, I don't think we need to worry about that. Livewire components. There's no intermediate component class that exists. Okay, cool. So now we get the path of the actual component. What does this do? This goes down. Fully qualified. I'm gonna trust that kind of all this plays out the way in which we expect. If it doesn't, our test will fail. Okay, this create path, this populate stub. So path is going to be that. Populate stub doesn't exist. And we're returning output. Where's output gets built up? Where do we build up output? We got all these like public, we got all these public properties that just appear. Where is this? Is this in the abstract? Oh, okay, all right. See, I don't like that. I definitely don't like that it's prefixed with abstract. That's bothering me. Anyway, let's take this populate stub. I think it's going to give us a lot of what we want. So we're going to bring this populate stub. It's going to return a string. So namespace, class, methods, imports. That feels fine to me. Fully qualified, blah, blah, blah. Build methods, build imports. So build methods is next. I think that's the one we're going to need. So we'll do build methods. And this is where kind of a lot of this is where the bulk of the code of the generator is going to go. So let's bring this over and kind of analyze it little by little. Whoa, okay, that's a lot of stuff. Okay, this is a huge method. Let's kind of get a feel for what's going on here. We're gonna bring in our Livewire method stub. We're gonna loop over the methods. The controller model name is assumed to be the singular name of... We're going to assume for now that Livewire is you typically don't generate Livewire to be a cruddy thing. Since it doesn't have multiple methods, it kind of has a single purpose. It's more akin to an invocable controller than it is to a resource controller, is what I'm saying. And as such, we don't want to assume that there's a model associated with this. The only way we would assume that there's a model associated with this is if you gave us mounted properties, right? I don't think it's typical to make the assumption that if you made a post component that the model is post. And even if it was, what are you doing with that model? Are you creating? Are you editing? We don't know, right? And for those reasons, I would rather do some kind of meta information or you have to mount something than to make the assumption simply based on the name. I could see too many false positives there. So let's get rid of that. We definitely don't have any of this policy information, so let's get rid of that. We're not passed in a controller. Let's fix that. We're passed in a component. Same thing here. Component. Let's fix all that. So component, whoops, forgot my $sign, need that money. Okay, so now we pass in component, everything should be happy here. We're passing a component down here, we're never using it, so let's fix that. Everywhere else in here we say controller, holy crap, lots of places. Component, okay, next, let's kind of go through this a little more slowly. Okay, so we're going to replace the method name with the method, of course, no problem. If it's edit, update, show, or destroy, we're going to assume all this request stuff. Again, we're not a resourceful controller. We can start ripping out those types of pieces. If there's a component policy, so again, none of that. This should get back to the basic stuff. It should get back to basically just building this method right now in a kind of a very dumb way. We're going to loop over the statements. I think looping over the statements for now is fine. I could see this interior logic for like a validate statement being a bit smarter, not assuming requests or form requests, because Livewire has its own kind of form object handling that are outside of form requests. I could see us generating that within the context of Livewire, not using this traditional validate statement that's in a controller. So again, I'm going to leave this for now because I think there's enough crossover between the statements that we probably want to generate this stuff based on what they're saying. Again, there's probably no render statement. I don't see there being a I don't know, maybe you could return a resource. I don't know. I could see that stuff. Redirects, we have that. Respond, I see that. You could mess with the session. You could definitely mess with eloquent and queries. We don't have this determined model right now. I'm okay with that exploding. We've copied a lot of code here. I'm okay with things exploding. Okay, this is potentially setting the return type of your method. I'm okay with that. And then we just build up. Okay, this maybe should get us a little farther. Let's see. Okay, it generated app simple component. That's fine. We haven't told it where to put Livewire stuff yet, so that's okay. It's generating something. That something probably is not what we expect the output to be, but it's generating something. Let's start to fix that. How are we on time here? All right, I'm going to go about 10 more minutes. Let's see if we can get this outputting the way we expect. Okay, so where do we actually... Okay, get path probably needs to be overridden a bit. I bet if... Yeah, it has 4 overrides. Yeah. Why? Well, wait a second. Get fully qualified class name. How does this... Fully qualified namespace. Config blueprint namespace. Okay. This is empty. This is empty in ours. Okay, good. We figured it out. Let's go back to our component generator, get into component. This is our problem. We have this components namespace, which again, I think I'm going to name components to Livewire. But anyway, the Livewire namespace is by default app Livewire. We need to add this config though. Otherwise it's going to be a little bit strange. So we're going to need to get into our blueprint config file, and we're going to need to add this. So for now, we'll keep it called components namespace. Components namespace. And we're going to change this to Livewire. And theoretically, okay, good. We have app Livewire simple component now. Boom. Okay, it's there. That's good. It's the first thing output. It's output to the right path. Does it have the right content? I don't know. We'll see once we're past this failing test. But let's go ahead and do the simplest thing next, which would be to generate a view for this, right? So we could say something like this, well, we'll leave this create, and we'll say this view path based on the component, and then this, we don't want to do this, again, we don't want to do this like 6,000 times. So I don't want to read from the file system like forever and ever and ever. I guess we could just put it up here. What are we doing with method? I think we only pull out method when it's there. Whatever, I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Let's just do this. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Get the view stub. There's no population for it. Maybe we populate it with the template name or the component that it's using. We could do a little @c thing in there, maybe for some click-through context. We'll see. I think for now, let's just leave it as is. Let's just make a little method here to generate the view path based off of the component. So we know here that this is going to return a string. This should probably theoretically be configurable, but again, for now, I don't have a test driving that out to be configurable. So let's just say, or well, wait a second, is the view path configurable? App path. I think views, yeah, I don't think views you move around. Again, somebody can PR that. It's not as simple as doing the class name. What we kind of have to do, is take, I think component has a relative. Does component have a name? Fully qualified namespace. Fully qualified class name. It has namespace. What does namespace give us? If there's no namespace, just return its namespace. What is namespace? Trim, implode, erase, slice. Oh, okay. The name. Okay. Okay. So what we would do, fully qualified class name, fully qualified namespace with the class name. I think what we do, this is, let's call this relative, it's like its relative class name is the namespace, kind of if, and then dot the component name. Yeah, is this name or class name? Class name? Ah, how did that generate? Class name. Yeah, which just gets you the name, but that's fine. I think class name's a bit more readable in the context of what we're talking about here. Okay, so take the namespace, take the class name. We're gonna kind of clean that up, and we need to output this slugified. So actually, there's a lot of stuff we need to do with this. So let's get some string manipulation going on here. So let's do string of that. All right. The assumption is that you have a namespace. You have a class name. We're going to put it together to create the relative path And then we're going to slugify that, you know, all that kind of stuff. So first things first, we need to replace our characters. I think we use directory separator here. Directory separator, yeah, because you might be running this on Windows. So let's fix that. So we're going to replace that. Then we're going to slugify that, I believe, and then we're going to get its value. So that's going to be kind of its relative class name, or its relative path, if you will. And then we're going to output that. Oh, wait a second. We don't... Do we slugify the class name? I don't know if we'd want to slugify the namespace. The other problem is it's actually going to slugify the slashes. I don't think we want to do that. I'm just trying to think here. I don't think that's going to... Well, again, we don't have a test for namespace stuff. I don't think that's going to work for a namespaced thing. Resources view, Livewire, simple component. Okay. I think, how do we get from... Wait, is it snake? Do I have to snake it? We don't slug. What do... I need to go from title case to dasherize. Maybe it's dasherize? Or slug is dasherize, right? There's not a dash. What is that thing called? They have one. Oh, they have one. What is it? It's not snake. Well, what happens when I go snake? I think what they do is they go snake and you change the delimiter to dash. I think that's how you get dasherized. But see, it's doing an empty one because of that. So I think what we have to do, just to trick this, is to say we want to ltrim directory separator. Again, this is a bit fast and loose. I'll test it out better when we get... Okay, cool. Method stub, Livewire, method stub, mockery should be called exactly 1 times, called 0 times. Interesting. We're farther down the line here. Let's see if we can crack this, and then I'm gonna stop there. If we can get it saying, hey, you didn't replace all the placeholders like in your empty thing, that's easy. I can write the component stub offline, but let's try to finish that out real quick. Okay, I think this is working the way I expect. The problem now, if we look at this a little more closely, is method Livewire. It's not parsing out the methods, supposedly. It should have generated a method in this thing, but it didn't. So let's go see. Let's just throw in a little quick debugging here. It should have got to build methods, but it's saying it never did. Livewire method stub from mockery should be called exactly 1 times, called 0. Okay, so for whatever reason, we never got in populate stub. All right, so let's dump component name. Let's get down into populate stub. We called build methods on components. We should immediately get that template right there. So either I've misnamed something or we're truly not getting into build methods. So let's find out. We're getting into build methods. What's in methods? Maybe this just isn't returning what I think it's returning. Let's do component methods. What is this? Action array, redirect statement, simple route. That looks good. That looks good. What's wrong with that? Okay, something's got to be wrong in the something's got to be wrong in the test then. So we say stub expects Livewire method stub, Livewire method stub. This is a real file. Yep, it's there. Livewire method stub expects it to be called once. Livewire method.stub. What? This is why I was working on that mockery thing. I need to finish that. This is weird because this probably isn't. It's sending you. It's like dense and it's sending you down a weird place. Output generates true. Okay, so method stub, livewire method.stub should be called exactly when times, called 0 times. However, something strange is happening here. Component before, or well, this is after. Before. Okay. Okay, that is impossible. So there's something strange going on here. File system, what do? Do I mess up file system somehow? Oh, there it is. See, I knew the test had to be wrong. Anytime your code's like, let's not question the nature of programming, you likely did something stupid. It's not that the language or anything is wrong. It's that you are wrong. Okay, so I was doubly doing the method expectation with the wrong stuff. So that should get us a little farther. Okay, so method put app livewire simple component should be called exactly when times. It was not called. It wasn't. Here's the thing. It wasn't called with blank. Now this is another thing I want to fix with Mockery. I would love that if it got called with something else, that's where it says, okay, you called it, but here's what you passed it. It's thinking we passed it nothing because I have nothing in that stub. This is where I really would love Mockery to behave a lot more like PHP unit and say, kind of like it was for our arrays up here, like, here's the diff, right? Like, you said send it nothing, but it got everything. Here, it got the full class generated component. So we're so close here. I'm gonna lie and just go a few more minutes. Let's try to get this built out the way we would expect. So let's go find our Livewire class. Let's copy this. What we would expect here is app Livewire. Our imports are simply use Livewire component. Whoops, Livewire component, not app Livewire component. All right, and then the class is going to be called simple component, extends component. We're not replacing that with anything. I'm not even removing the indentation. So that's potentially bad. We'll fix that up. And then what we would expect here is public function action. And then this returns a return redirect route. And what do we say? Simple.page, I think. Let's see how close we are. Okay, well that's the problem. See, it's not gonna actually output what we did. So let's get rid of our dumps, and what we'll do instead is we'll dump stub up here and see what we're actually out generating. And that's maybe where we'll pick up tomorrow because I've been cruising here. Okay, so what we generate is namespace app livewire, use redirect response. We're not replacing properties, so that's part of our issue. Whoops, that's part of our issue of why it doesn't match. We're also bringing in the redirect response because why? Okay, it thinks the redirect route. This is part of the action of, okay, it sees that you redirected something, but it's not renaming that function action. Probably because it assumes a different method signature. So it's adding the import for redirect response because it thinks it's adding the type hint here. But outside of not replacing the properties, which is something we need to do, this is generating, the foundation of this simple component. It's generating the method. It's actually rendering, or it's actually taking that parsed redirect action and turning it into Laravel code. That's awesome. But we're missing properties. That's going to be driven out by the next text fixture. So let's do this. Let's stop here. I think it's in a better place than it might seem. Let's stop here. Tomorrow we'll get that other test fixture working because I think when we do that, we're actually starting to generate, we're already generating theoretically more code than the make command does, which is the whole point of Blueprint, to do more, to be like make on super steroids. I think once it's generating mount and properties and you can put more statements in here, I think that's obviously way above and beyond what's currently out there. And I think that's good enough for an initial merge. Are there other Livewire statements that we could make and do? Maybe build up form objects from models and things of that nature, automatic validation. Absolutely, I think that could be built. But I think initially, you could just say, hey, initially, you know, validate and that kind of stuff is not, maybe not available, or it just behaves the same way a controller would. You probably want to, you know, clean that up. We'll see. Or maybe I'll just keep live streaming next week, more features. But yeah, I think this is in a good place today. Let's carry on from here tomorrow and get this properties placeholder working, and then we can go back and kind of figure out some of these type hints. But I don't feel like type hints and stuff like that are critical for launch. Again, I copied a crap load of code from the controller generator, which probably, you know, is or isn't correct. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you all for joining live. See you tomorrow.